Assalamualaikum my dear learners, how are you? I hope so you all are doing great and you all are having a very great lecture with me. So today again I'm with a new topic that is very interesting, the very easy also. So today we're going to learn about figures of speech, like we're going to know about the figures that are present in a speech. So like I'm having a basic content for that is simile and metaphor. You all know simile, I hope so, but let's study metaphor. Let's start. So, figures of speech. First of all, you should know what are basically figures of speech. It's so much important to know about figures of speech. First of all, as whenever you're going to learn about the simile or metaphor, first you must be clear about the concept of figures of speech. Okay? If this concept is being clear to you, then of course the other is going to clear to you by learning that. Okay? So, like first of all, you just put this thing in your mind that figures of speech, it's basically been devised by me to you. So let's start. A figure of speech is a word or phrase that gives a separate meaning from its literal definition. By adding figures of speech, we can make a piece of writing more interesting, creative and impressive. So here in this paragraph, when I learned it, I basically get to know this thing, that basically a figure of speech is that thing whenever you're having something that is having its original definition, but we add something, we add some actions, some adjectives in that makes it feel more interesting, creative and impressive. That is basically called the figure of speech. So whenever you're having a meaning of something, then you try to add some crispy newses, some adjectives in that to make it more interesting, creative and being impressive. That means figure of speech. So basically when in some sentences, I'm repeating, whenever you have a meaning of you are having a thing that is having its same meaning literally, but when what happens, you try to add more information, you try to make it interesting, creative or impressive, what happens that it becomes and figure of speech. So you say this thing as a figure of speech, like whenever you present this thing, that means figure of speech. And like you can, like let me repeat it again. A figure of speech is a word or a phrase that give a separate meaning from its literal definition, like it's having its real definition different, but the thing that it gives in the sentence or in a, you can say in a paragraph, that is different. But by adding figures of speech, we can make a piece of writing more interesting, creative, and impressive. Like whenever you don't tell anything to the writers or the readers, they get confused, and that's a very great thing of the writers. Okay, like this is one of the best thing of writers, that they do not tell anything; they just indirectly give this example. So you can say in individual or indirect definition of something is also called figure of speech. What is a simile? Like I hope so, like though all of you may know about the simile. What's a simile? This is very easy, like you have studied all around that what's a simile, and most of the people use simile in their daily life. So it's a comparison of two things that are usually very different but alike in at least one way. It is a comparison made by use of words as or like. For example, okay, like if I'm having something that my sister, like thus if my sister is very clever, I say my sister is very clever, but I want to expect it to someone that is equal to someone, like she is behaving like something. So I'm going to in this case we have to use the word as or like. So you can say my sister is as clever as a fox, because fox is very clever as it's an animal. So I'm going to just say like this is my sister is as clever as a fox. This indicates that my sister is so much clever. Okay, so basically what is a simile? You're having the comparison of two things, like they both are different for each other, but one thing is very similar because the fox is also clever and your sister may be also clever, so these both similarities make them same. So that's why whenever you do a difference of two things but in the same way, in one way they are being same, that means that it is at least one way that's going to make them same, that is simile. So just you have to use the word as or like. You can use, like you can say my sister is clever like fox, this is also a simile, or my sister is as clever as a fox, this is also a simile. Okay, like in simile we just use the word as and like. So the word usage of as and like is important or necessary. You cannot use any word against them because these are fixed. Okay, Okay, so let me give you a very quick example, that is very easy example though. The moon is round as a grapefruit. What does this indicate? That how is the moon? The moon is round. How? Like a grapefruit. Like a grapefruit is also round. That indicates that the moon is also round. You know, a grapefruit you have seen that is circle type. They are indicating that same way. That how is the, like here I have used the word as, and here I'm having two things. I'm doing the comparison of them as they are so different. Grape is a fruit and moon is a source that we get light, or it's a planet, you can say. So they are so much different, but by one way they are being combined as their shape, that their shape is same. This makes them feel combinable. This makes them very same. So let me give you some examples of simile. Okay, like here I'm having a sentence: he creeped into the room as quietly as a mouse. So whenever, like, you can, even though I here you can write a thief. The thief creeped in the room as quietly as a mouse, because whenever you go to someone's room, like, this is one thing that a mouse is also quietly caused. It doesn't make any sounds. Nobody has no idea that there is a mouse. Same as here they are talking about a person who he was just like a mouse. He went inside a room quietly. Okay Ji. So in this case sentence, what, so in this case they're just telling us that how the mouse came inside the room very quietly. He wasn't angry, and as he was as angry as a grizzly bear. So as have you ever seen a grizzly bear in the cartoons? Maybe you have seen grizzly bear. So he was as angry as a grizzly bear. And grizzly bears are like, they are describing two persons here. They are describing two person, that is a grizzly bear and they are telling that the grizzly bear is he's shouting like a grizzly bear. Same as a grizzly bear, this boy is shouting like he is very angry, you can say. So this sentence makes us feel that they are doing same actions, taken to something they are doing is behaving same. Okay, so here if you take example at this, if you take a look at this example, the clouds was fluffy like a cotton candy. Like, have you ever seen a cotton candy? It is so fluffy of pink color. You eat that and that's so tasteful. The same way you're saying is about the cloud. The cloud, it was just so fluffy when you see the cloud, and it, when it rains, then of course you see it's so fluffy. It just feels good. So they are telling that he was just cloud and cotton candy are two different things, but they're being same somehow with the one of the characteristic that they are having. Okay, so they are being same by the one of the characteristic that they are having. Okay, metaphor. What's a metaphor? It's a comparison of two things that are usually very different but alike at least only one way. This is a comparison without use of as or like. Like, what are they saying in this? That same thing, that they are comparison of two things that are not same at all. But what happens that here we don't use as or like. Here we normally we say something like, here there is no usage of as or like that we used in simile. Like, both mean the same, but what happens in metaphor, we don't use as or like it, but in simile we use as or like. Okay, but in metaphor we directly say something, like we can directly say something. We just don't use any metaphor. Like, we do not need any metaphor to describe this. Okay, like, there's not enough metaphor. We just simply say anything, whatever we have here. No basic this type of thing or basic construction is used. Okay, here we basically say something like, if you like, we grazed a white grapefruit in the sky. So we gazed at the white grapefruit in the sky. Now they are basically saying like, how did we graze that the white grapefruit that is present in the sky, like the same way we grazed. Okay, here grape with white grapefruit. This is the basically metaphor that is being discussed about. Okay, so metaphor is more simple and easier than simile, but most of you, I think so, you think that metaphor is hard, but it's not hard. It's a comparison between two things where we do not use as or like. Okay, and we directly say something to someone. Whereas in simile, what do we do? In simile we just talk about two things that are literally different, but we use as or like to talk about them. But in metaphor there is no such usage. We just directly talk about something, okay? So there's no such usage. Examples of metaphor. My best friend is an angel. Here telling about your best friend. How is your best friend? Your best friend is an angel. So you can write here, you can also write as simply like my best friend is as close to me as an angel. Okay, but here we're just writing my best friend is an angel. We're just directly telling that I think so that my best friend is an angel. We're not using of any simile, we're just directly telling anything, okay? So then we're having over here very easy example, that is ice cream is happiness. Ice cream is happiness in a bowl. So like have you ever seen, like whenever you see ice cream, all of you feel so happy by looking at ice cream. So they're basically telling this thing that whenever we see ice cream in the bowl, we feel so happy. They're directly telling me ice cream is as tasteful as a happiness in a bowl. Like when you feel so happy in a bowl, you put that happiness as equal to ice cream. They are telling this thing, they're just joining two things and just giving you an example and hint, okay? Then having the sun is a gleaming pearl. That means, like, have you ever seen the sun? Like the sun is just so greenly, it just gleams a lot. So they're telling the sun is a greenly pearl. That tells that it's just like as shiny or as white as a pearl. That have you ever seen a pearl? That they're talking about that. Differences between a simile and a metaphor. So what happens in a simile and metaphor? A metaphor is also a comparison between two things to show how they are like the same in some way. Okay, like they mean the same thing they told us about over here. Like simile and metaphors mean same. Okay, they mean same. They don't have any difference in them. We just whatever we do in simile, we do the same in metaphor. What happens in simile? What happens that one word or one phrase is having different meaning, but we are liking them from something that has a literally different meaning. But in metaphor the same happens, something that's having different meaning, we combine it to something that's having only one characteristic, same to it. So we're just doing the same thing, we're having nothing different, we're just doing the same comparison, we are not doing any other comparison. Same thing is being applied, but somehow it's different from that. Why? Let's study this why. Okay, let me give you the answer of this why. Like if you look at metaphors, so they don't use as or like to compare. So metaphors are basically that things that do not use as or you like they directly say something to someone. These are those phrases that directly convert to someone. They directly say something to someone. We do not indirectly, we do not say anything to anyone. So directly, whenever we do something or say something to someone, that is called the metaphor. Like the direct thing that is being happen, we are talking about that. Okay, so the differences between a simile and metaphor. Wait. So yes, differences between a simile and a metaphor. So simile, the pizza is as hot as a fire. He's giving an example that, as you know, the fire is so hot, so they're saying that pizza is that much hot as a fire. They are giving the example of fire, that fire is also hot. Now they're telling you that it's being hot like a fire. But in the metaphor, the pizza is hot fire. That means it's so hot and it's just like fire. That tells that the pizza is a hot fire. So in simile, I'm going to say the pizza is as hot as a fire. But in metaphor, I'm going to say the pizza is a hot fire. In simile, like if I have my baby brother is as cute as a teddy bear. So here that means your small brother is so much cute, you love your brother a lot, that means your brother is so cute and small. But if I'm going to say the same sentence is the metaphor, you need to say my baby brother is a cute teddy bear, just cute as a teddy bear, like you directly say something. So oral activity, oral and then identify similes in the metaphor. She swims like a fish. This is simile. Why? Because here like has came. My mother is my sunshine is a metaphor because they have no use of as or like. Her hands are as close as the eyes. That's a simile because as is used. Her smile is as bright as the sun. It's a simile. As is used. John stays awake all night long. He is a night owl. It's a metaphor because it's just not as or like is not used over here. So guys, I hope so you like today's lecture. I hope so you study a lot from this lecture. You are get it with simile and metaphor. The concept of simile and metaphor is clear to you. See you in the next lecture. Let yourself a laugh face.